Flyers look to win 2 straight. They got the win the other night here to kick off the 3-game homestand. They'll wrap up the homestand Saturday against Boston. Good start to the homestand. Can they continue it tonight, Brian? That's the question.
Yep, that is the question. They certainly have proven capable to go up against teams like this and handle them, especially here at home. That being said, this is a Tampa Bay team still built on speed and can be very difficult to contain. This is a big night for the entire organization as they continue to rally around Oscar Lindblom, who is thankfully still cancer-free, but here on Hockey Fights Cancer Night, that's always a big one for a number of reasons. So hopefully a good showing for the guys tonight, another good start out of the gates, and let's see if this power play can't get going. The well is dry at the moment, and Elaine Vigneault's been tweaking some things to see what works.
It's more like the Sahara Desert.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a well anymore, is it? So, but some sharp threads here on warm-ups for Hockey Fights Cancer Night. Usually they're purple based. This year they're whites with the purple trim. So
they're awesome.
Yeah, they're going to be auctioned off, by the way, later on today.
So will they be signed and auctioned off?
I'm sure they'll probably sign them. Yeah, that's generally how it works. But yeah, 2 points on the line, of course, and first of 3 games between these teams over the next 2 or 3 weeks, I think. They're going to see a lot of each other. So see if they can't get this series off to a good start.
Yeah, Tampa always seems like they stumble out of the gate, and then they become Tampa. They're
right.
2-time Cup champs. They have one of a top 10 winning point percentage in the entire NHL. I mean, as I look at it right now, points percentage-wise, Tampa is right now sitting in the 7th spot with a .679 points percentage. 14 games played, 11-3-3 is their record, and 19 points in the Atlantic Division of the Eastern Conference. Flyers come into this one tonight, Bri. In point percentage terms, in the top 12, they're the 12th team in the NHL with a .643 points percentage through 14 games as well, 8-4-2. And just a point back at Tampa, same amount of games played, 19 for Tampa, 18 for the Flyers. So they're off to a good start. Both teams are off to a good start.
It's kind of remarkable, isn't it, when you look at Tampa and you see that they're 8-3-3 and you wonder what's wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, it's that is such a different look than just even 5 years ago for this Tampa franchise. I mean, they were down in the dumps there for a little bit, but the Flyers, of course, were down there on March 12th, 2020, which was the day the NHL paused its season for the COVID outbreak. And if you recall, the Flyers had just won 9 in a row. They'd had a winning streak snapped by the Boston Bruins, and that Tampa Bay game was going to be a huge measuring stick game for where the 1920 Flyers were at that point. So, not many teams have been better than them over the last 2+ years. So it's you see that record and you're like, it's interesting. But they played a lot of hockey. I mean, this the grind of a Stanley Cup run cannot be underestimated. They've had to do it twice now, and this past summer especially, not a lot of time off for this Tampa Bay team from when they finished up to when they had to get started. So it's hard to keep this going. So kudos to them to have a record like that after everything they've done.
Yeah, and Nikita Kucherov's not playing again. He was the LTIR last year that they brought in and put him $18 million over the cap, of course, for the playoffs, which
great.
Some looked at that as circumvention of the cap. Other people looked at that and go, hey, there's not a GM in the the league who wouldn't have done the same thing.
That's exactly right.
And this Tampa team, it's interesting because, like you mentioned, they played the most games. But if I remember back to when the bubble started and the return to play initially happened, and there was the 3 exhibition games.
Mm-hmm.
And the Flyers played, I think it was Tampa, Boston. Who was the third team?
Washington?
Was it? Yeah, it was Washington.
Okay.
And they won all 3 games.
Yeah.
And because they beat Tampa, I remember getting the DMs and the tweets. People were saying, oh, look at this. Flyers coming back. They're going to win the Cup. It's like pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Those games didn't mean anything. It was good to win them.
It didn't mean anything to Tampa, that's for sure.
Yeah, it made the Flyers the number 1 seed in the East.
Right.
But it didn't mean anything. But anyway, this Tampa team is for real, and they've got a real good goaltender, Andrei Vasilevskiy, and he'll get the start tonight. It won't be Brian Elliott. Maybe we'll see Brian Elliott Tuesday.
Yeah, I think we're going to see him in one of these 3 games. He has actually a pretty decent record against the Flyers, even though he hasn't had to use it in a while. there is a good bit of turnover, though, on this Tampa roster.
They lost their whole third line.
If you look down this roster, there's a lot of guys that were not part of the last couple of years. So it's it'll be interesting to see if they've got to get some chemistry stuff going on here. And, sometime over the summer, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare snuck onto this team. He is, of course, a guy that the Flyers never wanted to lose in the first place. But
that's the original expansion.
Vegas. Yep, the Vegas expansion draft. He went there just because, they had to make a choice in that expansion draft, and essentially the choice was Pierre-Edouard Bellemare or Scott Lawton. And I believe they made the right choice. That doesn't make losing Belly any less painful. But they had to make the choice, and that's probably the right choice to make in that regard. But he's one of those top 10 teammate type of guys, and they've got the nuts and bolts of the last two Cup teams still there. Like I said, Kucherov is not playing, but he's still there. But Stamkos, Sergachev, Corey Perry, people like that or Ryan McDonough rather, that have been around for all of this run, and now they're trying to reload instead of rebuild, if you will.
Yeah, and like I said, they lost Barclay Goodrow.
Yeah,
they lost Blake Coleman. They lost an entire third line. So, but they've got the depth, and they're getting a lot of scoring this year already. Leading the way is a guy that a lot of people may have counted out. Maybe even I did at some point, because he just had the inability to stay healthy, and that's Steven Stamkos. And he's got 8 goals, 8 assists to start off the year, 16 points in 14 games.
Interestingly enough, though, you look at his line, 8-8-16, but he's a -2. Yeah. And so that tells you that a lot of that has been concentrated on the power play. Braden Point has fewer points. He's 6-6-12, but he's +6.
Stammer's eating on the power play.
He's been very dangerous on that power play, and so the Flyers again, their penalty kill has been, I think, slowly getting a little better, but I don't think they're at the point where they want to allow a guy like Steven Stamkos to have 4 power plays tonight. Stay out of the box and just be careful and try to play a close, tight game against this team the way they have in some of those other big games against big teams that they've been able to pull out. The low-scoring ones like the other night, the 2-1s. Just try to get the job done to the best of your ability without going in the box.
Yeah, and 6 of Stamkos' 16 points come on the power play. He's got 4 goals, 2 assists on the power play, so 10 even strength points. I'm assuming he does not have any shorthanded points. So
that leaves me wondering if there's some sort of defensive liability there. Then I would have thought he had a few more points on the power play given that line. I don't know who he's playing with right now with Kucherov out, but that might be a potential weakness there. And the Flyers have this top line that's still going pretty well, even though the goals certainly aren't coming. They might be able to use that as a catalyst.
Now, the other guy that when you're playing against Tampa, and we'll talk about Vasilevskiy in a minute, but for my money, perhaps, other than maybe Connor McDavid and maybe Nathan McKinnon, I think he's the best player in the league, the third best player, if you will, Victor Hedman. How about Victor Hedman? 14 games, 2 goals, 11 assists, 13 points, plays north of 25 minutes a night. He controls the game on the back end. Offensively, good defenseman. Defensively, great defenseman. He is the total package.
That's a guy that you're able to build a franchise around, and the revitalization of this franchise pretty much coincides with his arrival, if I'm not mistaken.
13.
Yeah, he has been basically rock solid, and it's the kind of guy that you look at and wonder if Ivan Provorov is the same guy. He certainly has gotten off to a similar start. Obviously, Hedman's got more of the size and things like that, but I would love to see Ivan Provorov be that same player he is, and as soon as maybe a couple of years. He's still got some learning to do, but he's well into this pro career of his, and he's gonna benefit this season from obviously what Chuck Fletcher did in the offseason to try to stabilize the defense. We're still now I think we're in a little bit of a better situation on the defense for the Flyers because through the first 3 weeks it was like Ryan Ellis had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play?
Now we know.
Now we know he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. So maybe that allows the Flyers defense to say, okay, this is what we're dealing with here for the rest of the calendar year, maybe, and just kind of situate it that way. And you hope there's no other injuries. But Hedman is definitely a force to be reckoned with in all situations.
13 years he's been in the league already.
That's stunning. I don't feel like it's been that long.
It's amazing. And great numbers and tremendous player and a guy that, it's 6'6", 237. He moves like he's 5'10". He's a great skater. He's the total package, no doubt about it. And they'll have to deal with him tonight, and they're going to want to get him out there against the Flyers' top line with Sean Couturier, Claude Giroux, and presumably who are they playing with tonight? Elaine Vigneault talked about it earlier, Bri, that there may be a surprise. They called up Max Willman. He was carrying his own bag into the building earlier today. Didn't get somebody to carry his bag. Where were you? They couldn't call you and have you carry his bag?
I was upstairs talking to somebody in our upstairs offices when I got an email that Max Willman was coming up. That's interesting.
I should have called you and told you to go out there and get the bag out of the back.
Generally, that's part of my job description. I had to go turn off John Paddock's car once because he left it running because he had the push button start and didn't know how to turn it off or something like that. I don't know, but that's a late move for the Flyers today. So we don't know what that's all about. He's close enough in Lehigh Valley to, if this was a planned thing, to have made the morning skate today, but he didn't do that. So. Not too sure what that's about, but he's been one of the bright spots in what has not been a great start for the Phantoms. They had I think a 5-game losing streak to start the season. Finally got some wins, and then they've had trouble finishing off wins. Last night they were down 3-0 to Charlotte, came back and tied it, but a late penalty led to a very late power play goal, and they ended up dropping that one. But he has been solid. He is a great story. We told that story a little bit earlier this season when he was drafted but not signed, I think, by this Tampa team maybe. I lost track of which team it was, but was a free agent. Could only find work in the ECHL during the turmoil that was the last 2 years, with everybody being pushed downwards because of various leagues not playing and things like that. And worked his way up, earned himself an NHL deal, and was able to make his debut earlier this year. So he's a great story, and he has been really taking advantage of his opportunity down in Lehigh Valley, and it pays off with another call up tonight for whatever reason. We don't know for sure if he's going to play, but
I do.
Do you?
I do know for sure. I have the lines now.
Good job.
Tim Saunders, based on line rushes. And how about these lines tonight? Interesting. Sean Couturier centering the top line with Joel Farabee and James Van Riemsdyk. Didn't see that coming.
Nope.
The second line, Derek Brassard centering Claude Giroux and Cam Atkinson. I didn't see that coming. The third line, Scott Lawton centering Oscar Lindblom and Travis Konechny. And then I think that's a 44, so that's Nate Thompson centering Zach McEwen, and 71 would be Max Willman.
It would be.
And then Braun and Provorov together, Sanheim and Ristolainen, Yandel, and 24 is Sealer. And Carter Hart gets the start tonight. Pretty interesting.
So I'm just looking here. Which forward are we missing?
Well, Patrick Brown is out.
Patrick Brown's already out, But Oscar slots back in.
And Oscar slots back in, so who came out?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll have to look a little more closely.
It's probably obvious, but we're not thinking of it right now.
Probably staring right now.
I'm going to look at the box score from the game on Tuesday. And
that's
going to be the answer.
That is it's Kevin Hayes, isn't it?
Oh, it is Kevin Hayes.
It is Kevin Hayes. Okay.
Yeah, Kevin Hayes will not be in.
Not able to go for whatever reason.
He was out there for warm-up.
Was he? Okay. So he left the game briefly after the second period the other night. And Keith Yandel said that resulted in a lot of four-letter words being said on the bench. I noted on Twitter that extended to the radio intermission show, although we weren't on the air, fortunately. He did finish the game, but it would appear that whatever it is going to ail him for one more night. So hopefully that's not long term. But with Hayes being in or out, regardless of that change. This is an example of use of a blender.
Yeah.
This is a boggle board, whatever you want to call it. This is a completely new look,
big time
for the Flyers. So we'll see how this we'll see how this pays out. And mind you, this is not a situation where they just start throwing darts at numbers and form lines. I mean, they have looked at something in video and looked at a few different things and come up consciously with these combinations. So the coaching staff sees something in this group that they like, and again, why not? I mean, again, the goals have not been there. The Flyers haven't scored a first period goal since I think game number 6.
Eight games now, is it?
Yeah, something like that. The power play obviously has not been there. So
22nd in the league.
Let's get something going. Let's get a spark. I was surprised it was that high when I looked today, to be honest with you. But let's get a spark going. Let's go. It's not like there's a bunch of stuff happening that's gonna be ruined if these line combinations don't work. So let's give it a shot, see what happens.
I mean, you look at it. The Flyers scored 5 goals against Edmonton. Since then, they've scored 2 goals, 0 goals, 3 goals against Arizona, 2 goals against Pittsburgh, 2 against Washington, 0 against Toronto, 2 against Carolina, 2 against Dallas, 2 against Calgary. Frank, I know the goaltending's been really good, and
Yes.
Carter's been really good, but they need some run support.
They do, and to your point, they have run into some really hot goalies in this time.
Are they hot, or are they making them look hot?
Maybe it's a little bit of both. That goalie from Arizona, I think they made look hot.
Actually, he's been playing pretty well.
He has been playing pretty well,
Yeah.
but that team has 5 points.
Yeah.
I was a little stunned today. We were discussing that in the office, and Shane Gostisbehere has 2 goals and 11 assists, 13 points. He's their leading scorer. They've scored 26 goals. So Shane Gostisbehere is factored in on half of their goals.
Yeah.
So it's obviously not going great down there,
And
but I don't think they expected it to.
Look, and somebody DM me and said, "Oh, God, good trade to get rid of Gostisbehere. Took an asset." Well, look, the guy's position is defense, and he can't defend. And although he's leading the Arizona Coyotes in points, we saw it here. He's a net negative player. And I know he drives offense, and the analytics people love him. The community loves him because he drives offensive numbers. But all said and done, he's a net negative player.
Right.
So, I mean, in your own zone at times, it looked like he was a player that, like you were almost playing shorthanded.
Yeah. But
those aren't my words; those are Bill Meltzer's words.
Absolutely. But I digressed us there a little bit. But
you set me off, is what you
to me, it's just. To me, I go back to that overtime goal the other night. The Flyers, I don't believe in the entire game got a fat, juicy rebound off of Jacob Markstrom. Every puck was going directly to the corner, but then they got that 2-on-1 in overtime, and Sean Couturier is, he could have gotten 5-hole there. He was definitely going low along the ice, but I believe his goal there was to get the puck on Markstrom's inside pad, which was his right leg, and set up a rebound for Cam Atkinson. I mean, for crying out loud, Atkinson was skating backwards into the zone,
totally
to open himself up. I mean, that was intense. So that's the kind of thing I want to see this team start doing. Let's start getting some pucks in there and getting some funny bounces and getting some rebounds and making life difficult on some of these goalies rather than trying to pick the glove side corner and putting it right in the glove every time.
See how it works. Or shooting it over the net,
or
giving a free out. Yeah. We talked to Kim Dillaball, Flyers goalie coach, before the game tonight, and just asked, and before we even got to talking about the Flyers goaltenders, we asked about Vasilevskiy, and what's the weakness on Vasilevskiy? And, he's big. He can move like as athletic as can be. He reads the game incredibly well. There's not very much weakness to exploit with him. Now, last year there was some numbers that came out that on long shots, he actually struggled. Yeah. On long, clear-sighted shots, which is odd.
It is.
But what Kim said was, you got to put people down there around him and disrupt them. That's what you got to do. I mean, he is a guy that the lower third of the net, he is tremendous. He's so good and so athletic and competes, and his explosiveness as a goaltender, it's all just off the charts. So you're going to have to just make his life really difficult. We're going to join the radio audience here in a second.
Get some people in his way. Try to get some screens.
Get him off his spot.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe bump him a little bit. Just don't let him just sit there and have his way with things.
Yep. And we'll talk about Carter in a moment as he gets the start tonight. And we're going to join the radio audience here now for the people on the stream. So we're going to take a little brief pause in our pontification.
WMMR.
Yeah, it is Jason Martinez. It is Brian Smith right here on the Flyers Game Day Show on the Flyers Broadcast Network as we get set for the Flyers and the Bolts. Tampa Bay Lightning. Flyers looking to win 2 straight. Tampa, a team that has won 2 straight cups. A little different kind of 2 straight there.
Add one word to a sentence to completely change the meaning.
Yes. It's funny. I was in the Amish market in my hometown of Westchester last weekend, and I was waiting down line to get my bacon and my lunch meat. And there was a couple there in Tampa Bay. What's up, dude? In Tampa Bay Lightning gear. I go, what's with all the Lightning gear? They go, oh, we're from Tampa. I said, all right.
Okay.
But you're not in Tampa. Why are you wearing all this stuff here? But no, this is a legit hockey team, a very good hockey team, and a lot of star power, even without Nikita Kucherov. And we were just talking on the streaming pregame show about Andrei Vasilevskiy. But Brian, tonight it is going to be Carter Hart. He's getting the start once again for the Flyers. And I asked him, Dillabaugh, the Flyers goalie coach, before the game tonight. I said, so far this year he's played in 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the best that you've seen him play as an NHL player? And Kim was here during his rookie year.
Yeah.
And 19, 20 and all that, and last year. And he said he didn't want to label it as such, but you can see that he knows he's playing really well.
Yeah,
he really is.
The early part of 20 before the pause, he was really dialed in. He was putting up some great numbers and all that, but he was still a rookie. So I think what we're seeing now, the play that he has now, as a more experienced player, is even more impressive just from that experience. You have you can be a flash in the pan, but he's showing that he is not that. He is coming out and basically doing one of 2 things. He's either holding down the fort until the Flyers can get some offense going, or he is holding down the fort after the Flyers have gotten the offense going. With very few exceptions so far this season, the couple of games where they just caught bad spots in the schedule and they kind of just didn't have the legs that night. When they have been on their game at all, he has been right there to back them up. So it's really been a solid season for him here in year number 3, and I think obviously what we think is more of a sign of things to come.
Yeah, and look, they need to eventually lessen the stress load, though, in the sense that they need to start scoring some more goals for them, because you can't just keep an opposition to 1 or 2 goals night in and night out in an NHL season. You're just not going to survive that way. This offense has got to get going for the Flyers, and we just talked about it on the stream show, and I'm going to give the lines out again for the radio audience. According to line rushes, no Kevin Hayes in the game tonight for the Flyers, but here's the lines, and to me they're very interesting. Sean Couturier centering Joel Farabee and James Van Riemsdyk. The second line, Derek Brassard centering Claude Giroux and Cam Atkinson. Scott Lawton centering Oscar Lindblom and Travis Konechny. And the fourth line, Nate Thompson centering Max Willman and Zach McEwen. Very interesting, too, because, when AV mentioned earlier today that there may be a player entering the lineup tonight, and people were trying to guess what player it was, who was coming out, a lot of people thought maybe it was Konechny because of that hit the other night where he went in awkward, kind of head first into the boards.
Right.
And I had sent a text to Tim when I was downstairs after our meeting with the coaching staff. I walked by and I saw TK run out to play soccer. I'm like, well, it's not him because he's going out to warm up and play soccer. You're not going to do that if you're not playing. And TK is in the lineup, so that's good. But Kevin Hayes does come out. 2 games in for Kevin Hayes. He's going to get a rest tonight, and hopefully he'll be able to get back at it on Saturday.
Yeah, and the thing with Hayes, neither you nor I saw it. For those of you who need a little peek behind the curtain, we watched the game from the press box, and in order to get from the press box to where we are here in East Food Hall, we got to leave with about 2:30, 2 minutes left on the clock in the period in order to get down here in time. And so you were headed down there to interview him, actually. I was headed here to the table, and so neither of us saw what happened. So it was kind of out of sight, out of mind for a little bit, and then he did come back out for the third. But again, you just hope that it's nothing serious, obviously, either not related to what he's been through so far this year and just just something else that's nagging, or a very minor setback on the surgery. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. But again, one of those guys that's not only super valuable in the lineup, but out of the lineup and off the ice as well. Just make sure he's around the team and there to be part of the overall situation.
Well, the other thing too is when you've had a double core surgery and your initial surgery after the season, and then had a re-aggravation, if you will, just before training camp, and had a little procedure done there in the same spot as well. You got to break down scar tissue, and that can be painful.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
remember talking actually, oddly enough, to Brian Elliott about that because he had a core surgery. Remember, he kind of came back early because they were just frankly out of goalies at that 1 year, and he had to come back and play. And he was telling me, and this wasn't like on a podcast or on the radio or anything. He was just telling me that breaking down that scar tissue in the core is painful.
Yeah,
and to get your full range of motion back, you have to go through it because it's part of the equation.
Every little move, every little twitch, you feel when you breathe, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And we've seen other players too, like, when Claude Giroux had it all those years ago.
Couldn't open up.
The whole almost took him almost the whole season to get back to where it is now.
Same with Shane Goss's.
I don't think Hayes' situation was quite as serious as those guys, but yeah, still, it's going to take a little bit of time. It's not just going to be a blink of the eye.
Well, it's going to be a fascinating game tonight.
Yep.
Here at Wells Fargo, the middle game of a 3-game homestand. Flyers got the win in game 1. That was the other on Tuesday night here on Hall of Fame night against Calgary. 2-1 was the score. They'll wrap it up on Saturday against the Boston Bruins. But tonight, it is Flyers and Lightning, 2-time Cup champs in town. A little measuring stick here for the Flyers. Stay tuned. Tim Saunders, Steve Coates, they've got the countdown to face off. All the first period action coming up right after this. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. Enjoy your hockey, everybody.
It's Flyers Hockey on 93.3 WMMR Philadelphia. Everything that rocks.